Eureka Cole, the church attorney, here to answer your question. One of the questions I've received from several of you is, are churches exempt from all taxes? I want to mention 3 kinds of taxes that churches want to consider, and the answer is you may or may not be exempt from all of these. So take a listen and do your own internal check. First of all, I want to talk about churches and what causes them to potentially have tax exemption and the levels on which these exemptions can be considered. First of all, and the primary of which might be exemption from taxes for your income. So exemption from income taxes. That's probably the hugest benefit that many churches have. And I will say that generally speaking, as a church, you're automatically exempt from income taxes. However, the only way you can demonstrate that exemption is if you have applied for and received tax exempt status from the Internal Revenue Service. So the first type of exemption from taxes that I want to mention is exemption from income taxes. So that means that all of the offerings, the tithe, the income that the church would receive, presumably you'd be exempt from that tax. That is a huge benefit, and a lot of times churches ask me, should they apply for tax exempt status? And generally speaking, I think it's advisable. I have written an entire book on this, how to maintain your tax exempt status as a church, and that is at eurekacole.com if you want to download that guide. So the first type of exemption is exemption from income taxes, and generally speaking, all churches have this benefit so long as you are properly formed as a church, and you will be able to demonstrate that exemption if you've applied for and received that letter of determination from the Internal Revenue Service. The second type of exemption that you want to consider is sales tax exemption. Now, the first type of exemption I mentioned, the income tax exemption, that's on the federal level from the Internal Revenue Service. The second type of tax exemption is on the state side. And again, you generally only have it if you apply to receive it. So sales tax exemption gives churches or tax exempt organizations broadly the ability to not have to pay sales tax on your purchases within your state. So that usually means that you have to apply to the comptroller or the proper agent in your state, and usually they will give you like a card or a number that indicates that you're exempt, and whenever you go to, let's say, Staples or wherever you might go to buy something, you present that card and you don't have to pay the state sales tax. So that's a huge benefit, but again, it's a benefit that you generally only have if you apply for it. The third type of tax exemption that I want to mention is related to property. So many churches may own property or may have purchased property, and unfortunately I've been called into issues where churches presume that because it's a church, they automatically have property tax exemption. And this is a big deal because property taxes can be in the thousands of dollars. Usually they're in the tens of thousands of dollars, and they're required to be paid annually. So if your church purchases a property, you cannot assume that because you're a church, it's automatically going to be exempt from property tax. You generally have to apply for it, and there are rules around what qualifies as exempt for property purposes, for property tax purposes. So usually that means that you have to actually be using it for some exempt purpose. So generally speaking, church operations, that's enough to give you a reason to be exempt. But sometimes churches buy land, for example, where they intend to build, but nothing is there currently. Usually the state is not going to allow you to be exempt. Usually you're going to have to continue to pay taxes on that property. So you've got to really build that into your budgeting and know for sure what the rules are in your state. So I'm excited to be able to respond to this question. Again, Eureka Cole, the church attorney. I invite you to like, to subscribe, and I'll be sharing more of these kinds of topics. Also go to eurekacole.com, check out Faithful Foundation's membership. You can get this kind of information on a monthly basis, and we would love to have you join us there. Bye.